What's going on, guys? My name is Austin. This is the Bodies in Business podcast. And today we're going to talk about the single greatest non-invasive proxy that we have for measuring adaptations of the nervous system. And what is that? It's called heart rate variability. So it took me a little while. I had to memorize that because that's actually a quote from a podcast with Dr. Wiles. And I thought the quote was just great. So I wanted to open up with that. But essentially, HRV is a great metric that you can follow if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, a nice wearable, either a Whoop, Fitbit, Apple Watch. There's a ton of different wearables you can wear now that will tell you what your heart rate is over an extended period of time. And so heart rate variability is an awesome metric that you can look at to see if you are basically really stress resilient or you are very high stressed. If you're not recovering very well, there's a bunch of things. So what is heart rate variability? Well, heart rate variability, or HRV, is the variation in time between each heartbeat, and it reflects how well your body's autonomic nervous system balances stress, your fight or flight, and recover, your rest and digest. So that's the biggest thing, is like we think that our heartbeat just beats ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And then when we get excited, it goes ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And then when we're relaxed, it goes boom, boom, boom. But in reality, they say your heartbeat actually is not like a metronome, meaning it doesn't beat the exact same beat, or it doesn't have the exact same time between beats every single time, which is kind of interesting because you would think, oh, you want your heartbeat to have the same time between beats every time. But apparently you don't. You want a high heart rate variability because that means you're actually healthier and your body and mind can actually take care of processes in your body. It's interesting how I thought about it, and I've listened to these podcasts where basically if there are a lot of things going on around you, if you're in danger and you have to really focus on the things outside of you, your brain goes, okay, I need my heart to really just focus on beating at the exact same beat every time because I need to focus on things outside of my body. I can't focus on things inside my body. So your heart rate is almost the same. But let's say you're very relaxed and you're like, okay, like my mind can actually take care of a bunch of things inside my body. So now my heart rate variability can be all over the place because I don't need it to be the same thing every single time because there's not a lot going on. I can relax and my heart can do whatever the heck it wants. So that's how I, look at it. But obviously people think about it different ways. Heart rate variability is basically a signal of how well you're able to adapt to stress. And that's something that we all need to be able to do. And you probably want to know what helps improve heart rate variability. Well, getting great consistent sleep, exercising, and doing some, I don't know what I'm using my hands for, getting great consistent sleep, getting great consistent exercise, and then doing a breathing practice. It's called resonance breathing, is actually really good for you, or doing meditation, or just, calming down, getting away from a lot of stimuli. And yeah, so those three things are the biggest things: sleep, exercise, and relaxing. Those are the three best things you can do to improve your HRV. And then we can talk about those really quick. HRV from a sleep standpoint, when you get great sleep, around 7 to 9 hours every night, your heart rate variability tends to improve. Your just overall health improves when you're getting great consistent sleep. And so that's, it doesn't surprise me that sleep is like the number one thing. If you're not getting great sleep, then you're probably you're not going to be your best, and you're probably not allowing your body to relax from all the stressors you had from the previous day to be able to take on the next stressors in the following day. One thing Dr. Wiles said in his podcast with Chris Williamson, he said, we need to think about adaptability, resilience, and flexibility. So HRV allows you to adapt to certain environments that you're in so that you feel like you're comfortable in those environments. Resilience means you can take like a punch and be like, you know what, I can handle that punch. I can keep going forward. You're not going to just crumble if something doesn't go exactly the way you thought it was going to go. And then flexibility is, my plans are completely changing. I need to be flexible in what I'm doing, not just like, limber. You need to be limber. That's also true. Flexibility means like if your plan doesn't go according to plan, then you need to be able to adapt to the new plan and be flexible with what can happen and be like, okay, this might happen. Let me just be flexible in what could happen. So I thought those were fun. to understand is adaptability, resilience, and flexibility. Those three things are like three things you need to be able to do in life in order to be more calm, to be honest, because different things are going to happen. From an exercise standpoint, we're going back to the things you can do to improve HRV. Now, exercise, I would say 15 to 20 minute HIIT workout 4 to 5 times a week, and then hitting your step goal the other days. I would say hitting about 7,000 steps a day in general is probably what you should shoot for, even if you are doing a 15-minute HIIT workout, because just getting enough movement throughout the day in general is good for your heart. And then breathing, this was something that he talked about, this thing called resonance breathing. And resonance breathing means your cycle of breathing is about 4.5 to 6.5 cycles every minute. So that means, like, let's just use 5 cycles as a good metric. That would mean like your inhale, exhale, and then relaxation and keep inhaling and exhaling would be about 12 seconds. So that's 5 inhales and exhales, and going through the whole cycle of breathing is super helpful. And honestly, he said that doing about 10 minutes a day for 4 to 6 days out of the week can dramatically improve your autonomic nervous system. And it can allow you to actually handle stressors better. I know not a lot of people have or feel like they have 10 minutes during the day to really just work on breathing. But I think a lot of times we waste a lot of the day when it comes to watching or looking at our phones, watching TV, or just mindlessly doing something we could be using to help our autonomic nervous system by doing breath work. I always like doing 4-7-8 breathing, either if I'm trying to go to bed and I feel very, anxious. And I really do that if I can't fall asleep. And I also run my trainees through it, I guess customers through it, whenever I do a workout with them. At the end, we do 4-7-8 breathing to really calm their nervous system down and make them relax before going out into the day. That's about a minute. We do about 4 or 5 rounds of 4-7-8 breathing. So that's about a minute. So we're getting in a little something there. But, he said that meditation's good, and combining meditation with resonance breathing would be super helpful. So going back to it, sleep, exercise, and breathing are 3 of the best things you can do for your HRV. The podcast he did went much more into like reasons of why you should care about your HRV and how to understand what your HRV is. And you shouldn't compare your HRV to other people. He said your HRV is very distinct to you and what you do. And he said that someone could have a really high HRV, and someone could have like a medium HRV, and they could be both very healthy people. But one person could be like a professional athlete and one person could be just a normal person. Just having, you shouldn't compare your HRV to other people, because it's really about your heart and how well you're handling stress. So that was one thing he talked about that I found interesting, is a lot of people like to compare certain numbers with each other when it comes to heart rate variability. And he said that's probably not a good thing to do, just because sometimes people's heart rate variability just doesn't go as high as other people. And that doesn't mean you're not as healthy as them. It just means from a genetic standpoint or just an overall life standpoint, they have a higher HRV. So that's it. I think it's super important to understand these things. My watch has been super helpful for me to understand how well rested I am. I use it for a sleep score a lot of times. And I think if you want to use something to understand your body a little better and it's not going to like freak you out, having this is super helpful, because it actually takes your heart rate variability over a long period of time. And you can start to think, okay, the more chaos you have in your life, you want some type of data giving you feedback to say, this is what you can change, or this is what is changing that makes you feel better, or this is what is changing that makes you feel worse, so that we can point to certain things and understand our body better. Hopefully that helps, guys. I know that was a lot of information, kind of babbled on a little bit, but HRV is such an interesting thing, and you can definitely improve your HRV over time. It's just about being consistent with those 3 things: sleep, exercise, and doing breath work. Go listen to these 3 podcasts that I put out there. There are a couple short ones and there's a really long one, but there's so much good information about HRV. And now wearables are actually getting a lot cheaper. So super helpful there. Get after it, guys. Thanks for watching.